Well, as of recording, my channel is up to 10 views, so to the 10 people who have seen my previous video, thank you. Here's my next attempt. Thor number 2. Cover. Look at this cover. It shows our now favorite Herald of Galactus in some sort of torturous position by Galactus. I'd say the implication is that Thor is some sort of puppet, but it's also gorgeous to look at, with the reds and the oranges juxtaposed with the bright light of Thor's uniform and Mjolnir. The Devourer King Part 2, Lightning and Hunger. Writer Donny, artist Nic Klein. We see black snow fall on a cityscape that could easily be one in the United States. A question is asked on what will you do when you come to terms with the fact that everything you are, were, and ever will be is simply erased. We see these city people as their limbs are disappearing as the black winter snow makes contact with them. The narration says, you'd reach out to your gods for help because everyone does in this scenario. I think I know what this city is. Check out the globe. Does that remind you of anything? And the unmistakable blue and red blur. A sun god, a god of emerald light, a god of the dark, of the ocean, speed and strength. Now I'm sure you're piecing this together, and it's awesome, because Donny is comparing the Justice League to gods, and in any way that makes perfect sense. In fact, they are referred to as the League of Gods, and as powerful as those you have always marveled at. Damn, I love this wordplay. But in the end, this League of Gods couldn't defeat the Black Winter. Now, I remember a lot of fans going nuts over this, and not just the usual DC versus Marvel that's been around since the companies began. This issue, number 2, kind of followed the heels of DC's Doomsday Clock. At the end of the book, it is mentioned that Superman will battle a green Goliath that matched his strength, and a god of thunder. But apparently this was probably Donny trolling the audience, and also given a real sense of danger around the Black Winter. After all, if it can roll through the Justice League without pause, then what in the verses can stop it? This notion of futility against the Black Winter is perfectly illustrated by a panel where you see a dark hand holding a universe in the palm of its hand and closing a fist around it. Now, I can't help but think this is in reference to DC and its story of the birth of their universe, or even their multiverse. It famously has a hand coming out of nowhere giving life to their domain, and now this dark hand will end it. But this universe has Thor, Herald of Galactus. Thor and his ravens have led Galactus to the first of the key planets, named Clips. I like this image of Thor. It reminds me of Conan the Barbarian and that style of filmmaking. There isn't enough of that in the world today, in my opinion, and that's a shame. Here we see Galactus with his instruments of devouring, along with Thor. The Thunder Herald is telling Galactus on how he's going to evacuate the planet. Galactus is being, well, let's just say a little impatient. He wants to do this now. Thor reminds Galactus that he's weaker than normal and almost challenges the Devourer if he doesn't let him evacuate the people first. Mess around and find out. Now, the ongoing mystery of Mjolnir that we saw in the last issue is rearing its head again. It's getting heavier ever since Thor took the throne. In the past, he lost the ability to lift Mjolnir when he questioned his own worthiness. This gave rise to the Jane Foster Mighty Thor, but I don't know if this is the case now. Galactus tells Thor he gave him his new power, and he could take it away. In response, Thor basically says, "You don't know me, bro," and launches his hammer. Thor really doesn't say that, by the way. Mjolnir goes through Galactus's fingers, severing them in the process. Man, the balls on Thor Odinson to definger this force of nature. I love it. Needless to say, Galactus is not a fan of losing his fingers, or this display of prideful behavior from his new herald. Galactus thinks Thor needs a little slice of humble pie, and he's gonna serve it up with an extra helping of whoop ass. So how does Thor respond to Galactus's offer of this type of pie? With a very reasonable action of taking out his kneecap with Mjolnir. I'm not saying like he tripped him or anything, he blew out his kneecap. Seriously. In the middle of this fight and Thor telling Galactus what's what, Thor gets hit by a boulder. The boulder was thrown by one of the panicked people Thor is trying to save. They turn on him because they are terrified. Thor tries to use the Alton to calm the people, but it's to no avail. They keep swarming him, and Thor ends up having to use force against them. As this is going on, Galactus is doing what he does and firing up his massive mighty machines. Thor is busy with the hordes of people and is powerless to halt Galactus's plan of devouring the planet and all its inhabitants. Thor makes the move to dispatch his ravens to contact Sif. This is a really good move on the King's part. Not only does Sif have that sweet, sweet sight, but she also controls the access to the Bifrost. The Bifrost arrives on Clips, and the citizens of the world are being evacuated per Thor's demand. He tells Galactus that he may only feed when the planet is empty of the people and not a moment before. He tells Galactus that the people are under his protection and no one will die today except Galactus if he challenges this. All Eclipse have made it safely to Asgard, and poor Volstagg has to take census of the survivors, and it's very frustrating. My boy Thor offers to help by thinning out the crowd by means of killing enough of them to make the crowd more manageable. This is what I love about Thor. He's a former hellhound, born and bred for terror and murder. But since he met Thor, he's genuinely just wants to be a good boy. But it's hard for him sometimes. Also, Thor is funny and freaking adorable. Look at him. It makes me so happy to see him. Here Volstagg is talking to Thor through the All-Father's ravens. Thor has promised the people sanctuary in Asgard until such time as they can rebuild. Volstagg is amazed that the king can speak through his ravens. Here we find out that Hugin and Munin are not really ravens and never have been. My guess is that they are an extension of the Allfather, but that is only a guess on my part. If somebody knows different, please let me know. The ravens leave before Volstagg could tell them the world tree is dying at an alarming rate. The planet has been evacuated of all the people. We see Galactus going in for the meal. It's an interesting observation that not all life made it to Asgard, but regardless, Galactus's hunger must be satiated. Galactus needs more if he's going to defeat the Black Winter. Thor tries to stop him, but he cannot stop Galactus. He starts referring to himself not only as the god of lightning and thunder, but also the god of destruction and genocide. The last two may have been for Galactus, but I'm not sure. Thor is pissed! Not kinda sorta, but pissed at Galactus. Galactus was only supposed to feed on the life energy of the planet. Destroying it was not in the deal. Galactus maintained it is a necessity for beating the Black Winter. He's also powering up, and it looks like it's aimed for Thor. Humble pie, coming up for the god of thunder. Crack-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat! Galactus is bombarded by firepower, and it's amazing to see. Thor also seems to have taken a share of the attack. Now, the narration indicates that this is no god that entertains the prayers of hope and salvation. This god, however, will grant revenge and ruin. Here we see this attack has come from our favorite adopted Asgardian, Beta Ray Bill, and he is riding a flippin' space tank. Shit just got real. Well, I hope you enjoyed this account of Thor number 2 by Donny. I'm hoping the audio issues have gotten solved. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Fare thee well, my friends.